Hello everyone, I'm Dheandra Kinanti Putri and my partner, Indah Farah Octania. We are here today. In this video, we're gonna have a little presentation about American, British, and Indonesian fashion history. Alright, the first one is the history of American fashion. Here we go with 1970s. Women during the 1970s wore granny style or hippie style dresses, bell-bottom pants, tank tops, and graphic t-shirts. Men also began to wear low-rise, bell-bottom jeans, and platform shoes. Their shirts went untucked and they began to grow their hair out longer, taking inspiration from bands such as the Beatles. Next, 1980s. 1980s fashion relied heavily around bright colors and hues. For both men and women, the waistline of pants was high. Denim jackets for men's sweatpants became far more popular. Sport jersey for women, turtlenecks and high-waisted pants were once again in fashion. Next, 1990s. Clothing during the 1990s was still loose-fitting, but the colors were not as vibrant as the 1980s. Baseball caps came into fashion for both men and women. Among the young people, hip-hop style became the most popular as hip-hop music became more mainstream. We're in 2000s. In this era known as the mashup decades, designers began to take inspiration from many different decades. During the 2000s, women's fashion became far more feminine once again, and then men began to wear more athletic attire in their everyday clothes. And then we're in 2010s. So in this era, as you can see on your screen, there's a lot of fashion trend happens in here. So like bomber jacket, infinity scarves, flower crown, side bands, ripped jeans, and then this one, Justin Bieber style, harem pants, and then leather jacket, turtleneck under a blazer, and then skinny jeans. And the last one, the fashions of the 2020s, represents a departure from 2010s fashion. They have been largely inspired by styles of the mid-20s and 1980s.
Next is British fashion. Usually, British wear casual outfits like t-shirt and jeans. Some people like to wear shirt over jumper, and for women, layering a jumper over a dress. Here's another iconic item in British fashion. 1970s fashion. The 70s was a highly playful and explorative decade for fashion in the UK, with numerous styles being adopted. This included a hippie or boho style with tie-dye, bell-bottoms, variety dresses, and crochet becoming popular, all of which was part of a movement away from mainstream fashion and politics. The punk movement was also a rejection of mainstream society, but with a rather different style. Instead of crochet, punks wore tartan, leather, and chains. Disco also became popular in the 70s, and this meant that sequins, hot pants, and miniskirts were all the rage. Menswear kept getting more bold and colorful, with more printed shirts and blazers becoming mainstream alongside increasingly slim-fitting trousers. The 70s, in particular, created a bunch of male British style icons, from Mick Jagger to David Bowie. 1980s fashion. Called by some as the time that fashion forgot, the 80s were certainly an interesting time for British fashion, with many supposed fashion rules being ignored or broken. Understated was not a theme of the 80s, with some of the most popular trends consisting of shoulder pads, power suits, and bright lycra sportswear. Denim also became more popular than ever in this decade, with denim jackets and skirts becoming common alongside classic jeans. Similarly to women, menswear consisted of a lot of power dressing and sportswear, including tracksuits and windbreakers. 1990s fashion. In the 90s, fashion became more casual than ever, with both men and women favoring jeans and oversized clothing. Sportswear continued to inspire fashion, with items like biker shorts and big sweatshirts being a popular trend for women. Lady Diana was one of the trendsetters in that year. Many women imitated her style from head to toe. Men were increasingly inspired by grunge movements and bands like Nirvana, with flannel shirts, jeans, and Converse shoes being common. 2000s fashion. This was the time that fast fashion started to become pervasive in the UK and other Western countries. A lot of clothes started to be inspired by celebrity culture, and they were made as cheaply and quickly as possible. Y2K trends such as smash tops, wide leg trousers, and bedazzled t-shirts were popularized, and we're currently seeing a resurgence of these styles. In the late 90s, there was even more fashion experimentation. Some trends were inspired by the 80s, such as neon and geometric patterns, but we also saw a rise in alternative trends such as emo style and scene. Some of the most popular noticed trends in the UK include skinny jeans, Ugg boots, and chunky belts. Next, 2010s fashion. This decade is when things started to change, and the fashion world has continued to see a total upheaval in how fashion is worn, designed, and marketed ever since. With the rise of social media, influencers culture, and eventually sustainability and eco-friendly fashion, we've seen significant change throughout the industry. From festival style with fringing and flower crowns, to millennial pink everything, to the rise of the trainer, fashion has constantly been on the move, and we continue to see trends from previous decade being recycled. This 2020s fashion is influenced by American fashion. Casual, but have their own identity. First, tweed jackets. Tweed originates from 18th century Scotland. In the other Hebrides, the concept behind tweed was simply a protection against the harsh elements. However, word and fabric soon spread. By the 19th century, tweed was the height of fashion in British society. The jackets were particularly favored for the sporting upper class and often worn for riding, hunting, and shooting. Later still, tweed spread across the British class spectrum, becoming an essential farmer's item of clothing. Nowadays, tweed jackets are a versatile item within British clothing culture. The jackets are worn by men and women alike and can fit several different clothing categories. Next is jeans. Like tweed, Britain adopted jeans from foreign soils. Jeans originated in the USA back in the 19th century. The design is credited to a tailor named Davis, who sought patency from his fabric supplier, Levi Strauss. Nowadays, Levi's remains one of the largest company icons in the clothing industry. By the mid-20th century, jeans had crossed the Atlantic and grown in popularity within British clothing culture. Next, leggings. Leggings are typically regarded as somewhat of a guilty pleasure and worn mostly by women. Originally, it was designed for Scotland military men in the 14th century. Now, leggings are popular within the sporting and fitness industry, with a matching sports bra and leggings a popular gym outfit in Britain. Pairing leggings with an oversized jumper and some trendy jewelry is a popular outfit look, especially in the autumn months. Next are trainers. Trainers are mostly considered casual in the footwear categories. A price pair of trainers are suitable for Friday night at the local pub, but likely not for clubbing or smart casual venues and events. Generally, Nike and Adidas are the go-to brands for trainers. Converse, New Balance, Puma, Vans, and Jordan all receive purchase love in Britain. Next, trench coat. Popular amongst men and women, the trench coat is a standard wardrobe addition in Britain. The coat shot the spotlight as military attire in the First World War, despite being used back in the early 19th century. However, trench coats were mainly reserved for the higher-ranking military, such as officers, instead of the common soldier. Nowadays, many retailers who once designed military uniforms provide fashionable clothing. Burberry, for one, was particularly notable during the war and remains a global fashion company today. Grey joggers. Joggers, also known as sweatpants, usually fall into the loungewear or casual category. Joggers were originally born in France as the brainchild of Emile Camusset, the founder of Le Coq Sportif. He created grey joggers in the 1920s for easy movement yet warm for athletes. In the 21st century, joggers are mass-produced by global brands and are particularly loved by the Brits throughout colder seasons. Last, Indonesian fashion history. From 80s until now, Indonesian fashion is influenced by American and East Asian fashion, like Korea and Japan. In 80s, both men and women usually wore acid wash jeans, or in Indonesia, it calls jeans belel. The modern process of acid washing was patented in Italy by the rival jeans company in February 1986. They accidentally tumbled jeans and pumice stones wetted with a weak solution of bleach in a washing machine without water. Another American fashion, like miniskirt, colorful leggings, and punk style were popular too. One of 80s hair trends was fluffy hair. The typical 80s hairstyles were part free, featuring an effortlessly tousled look with plenty of volume. Fashion from 90s to 00s were strongly affected by American fashion. Almost everyone in 1990s wore jumpsuit, flannel shirt, denim, leather jacket, and overall. 90s style was come back in early 2000s. Emo styles, skinny jeans, biker jackets, colorful glasses, tiny sunglasses, hat-shaped inner hijab, and instant hijab were iconic fashion in that year. Fashion trend in 2010s, just like previous year's trends. Retro fashion like boho style, leather jackets, knitted clothes, and ripped jeans was common to wear at that time. Because of pandemic in early 2020, all citizens were commanded to wear masks in order to prevent the virus spread widely. During that time, a new fashion was born, a trendy mask. People could wear a mask that matched with their outfit and still safe when go out. In 2020s, 90s style back again, alongside with new trends like pajama set in Korean and Japanese style.
Here we go, we're coming to the end. So I can conclude that fashion can often be considered an expression of one's true personality and creativity. Undoubtedly, with changing times, fashion has changed over the decades to cater to the changing environment. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.